cloud. You would have heard about all these industry technology jargons. All these technologies were born from the internet. There are businesses which are born from the internet as well. Like for example, if you look at the Uber, it's a business that was born digital. If you look at Amazon, which is actually endangering the entire retail, or really put a big impact on the retail industry, was born digital. These are companies that were not only using internet for their businesses, but then they were using internet as their business. Now if we go on really to understand where digital touches us. Digital is a part and parcel of our lives today. It touches everybody. It touches every business. It impacts every industry. Now if you look at that, you see that pictures on that slide. Each one has its own digital disruption curve. Look at Uber, we spoke about that. You see GE there. That's a locomotive which is on a pay-per-use kind of a model. It has got sensors all around the board which can analyze what happened to that locomotive in real time. It can give that sensory data back and can self-heal itself. This is a great disruption in the manufacturing industry, is it not? And if it can happen on a locomotive, then why not in smaller parts, or smaller moving parts? We're talking about driverless cars. Now Uber feels that 60% of the cars on the road in London would be driverless cars going forward. Isn't it frightening? Now, if you look at, there are other emerging technologies. Today, if you see, authentication takes about 3 days in banks. Like for example, if I need to really authenticate a payment. Now, there is a Chinese company which is developing a product around authentication using facial recognition, which uses blood vessels inside your face to authenticate a payment. That means that once you see it, your payment is authorized. You don't really need to wait for 3 days. It's going to take 10 minutes. Amazing, is it not? Now, what does that mean to the existing industries today? Does this mean mass extinction? Yeah, it could be. Well, it cannot be as well. Why? We are all existing in this room. We are in our own businesses. We are leaders. Why should we really care about mass extinction? This is a very important fact. Fortune started listing out Fortune 500 companies way back in 1955. If you look at the list of Fortune 500 companies then, and the list which is published in 2015, 88% of companies in the Fortune 500 list have vanished. Only 12% of them remain. True, in that sense that mass extinction is reality. What happened to 88% of companies, and that too not small companies, but then really, really large companies in Fortune 500 gone from the list. Now, if you go back and look at some of the paleontologists' way of seeing things, right? Scientists. Now, if you look at, they feel that post mass extinction, the smaller organisms have a better way to survive and adapt and live than the larger organisms. This is more from the fossil way of seeing things from scientists' piece of eyes. This is also having a name, it's called the Lilliput effect. Now, if we connect this analogy back to the industries that we belong to and to the enterprises that we are dealing with, we are seeing that the smaller companies today have a better ability to change, react to a change, come up with a better competitive product, provide a better customer experience that will help organizations or consumers to look at those companies. Now that's the success that you're seeing in the companies like Uber, Amazon, though at the startup they were very small companies. You're seeing that I gave a lot of examples during the last slide as well, wherein these are all startup companies which are creating big impact, right? So what will happen to the enterprise? Should we keep quiet and watch this happen, or should we react to it? Digital disruption is not an abstraction anymore. It is something that is happening right now. It is not something that is for the future, where you can delay your decision. It is something that you have to react upon today. But then how do we probably go about that change?
Which one is this?
The answer lies in digital transformation. How do you beat digital disruption? Lies with digital transformation. Now, what is digital transformation? I'll decode that terminology as well for you. Now, digital transformation is not a single thing. It's a whole lot of things which will impact multiple other industries that we belong to. It'll be a part of parcel where a lot of industries come together to serve that common man or create that user experience for him. The example that I would want to put here, or a case study which is more of a relation of multiple industries working towards for a common man. If you look at, there is a tractor on the field of multiple hectares, spraying fertilizers and water across the field. Now imagine that tractor getting 4K images from a drone which actually goes through that field. Now once that connects those devices and it takes those images in, it precisely understands how much of water and fertilizer to spray on the field, and that tractor is driverless. Now that's big. Now when we talk about that, that tractor is again a mission, right? It can go faulty. Now you have a maintenance engineer who is visiting that tractor. He wears an augmented reality glass and sees that tractor. He will clearly understand a 3D modeling of that particular tractor coming in front of him. He will really know exactly what went wrong with the tractor in imagery. And also he gets a manual wherein he can fix that problem in real time. Now that's a human intervention. Now that human being has ordered for a state-of-the-art drill from an online shopping cart, which he wants to go back home in the evening and get it from the shop where he has actually ordered for. The shop understands that this guy is getting into his shop, and they know through sensory things that, okay, this is the gentleman who's coming into the shop to get his drill that he ordered for. And that drill gets delivered to him in flat 10 minutes in the precise manner that he ordered online. Now, once that gentleman takes that drill back home, that drill self-configures itself based on what kind of surface it's going to drill. Now, this is a case study which connects multiple different industries. It's again resulting in a common consumer user experience. This is where digital is going. This is where the future lies. And this will go and impact every bit of industry. Now that doesn't mean mass extinction. If we as organizations can react to this change now and think that this is going to be the future for our organizations, then we think that this is an opportunity and not mass extinction. So how does enterprises, or how do enterprises embrace this potential in today's world? How can we probably be competitive using all these technologies?
Yeah, so next is our...
It starts with a shift in strategy. So how different should you be thinking? Look at Forbes report says about 67% of organizations or enterprises that exist today will have digital transformation at the central part of their strategy. Everything around that will be something that is periphery by the year 2018. Good.
Don't remind me of that.
You see the list of names in the slide? All these companies were born digital. They are the smaller organisms after mass extinction. They have a better ability to thrive and strive and survive. But how about the larger organizations that were not born digital, that have a legacy business to do? 10 years in business, I'm a leader in this industry. So how do I thrive this?
Because yesterday only they announced.
It's not only for the new companies, it's also for the existing. If you look at these companies, are all big names which you see on the slide. All of them have taken digital transformation as a central part of their strategy. And they are from different multiple other industries as well. Now if we go forward, we think about some of the IDC reports which says that today 22% of the existing organizations which are there in legacy business have taken advanced initiatives on digital transformation. Now by 2020 we see that 50% of the organizations would have taken advanced initiatives on digital transformation. This is all taken to ensure that today these companies remain as leaders in the way that they do, or without changing their business model. How do they actually exist and survive in the industry? Now what about your industry? How do you categorize, or how do you decide whether you have to react to this digital disruption, whether this is the right time for you? Now we have made that a little simple. If you really understand, there are three categories of digital disrupted companies, right? The first category is an already disrupted category. In your own personal lives, you would have experienced this. The way that you read newspapers have changed from 10 years ago to what is happening right now. I stopped buying my last newspaper about 1 year back. Today I'm connected to 4 different newspapers. And today I don't wait to receive a newspaper in my home to receive my news. I have flash news on my mobile. I can be on my go. I can read my news. It has impacted me as an individual. Now if you look at That kind of example can be given in every different industry that you see here, right? Whether it is music, whether it is video, it has touched every lifestyle. And today we are, from last 10 years, if you see, that's evolved largely, right? Now, if we go back to newspapers and a little bit drill down whether that is a reality, as a common man, my experience has changed. But then if you look at that industry, what kind of changes is happening? If you see, this is a popular newspaper in the United States. This is what the chief publication says. We have decided to stop printing this newspaper, but we have not decided the date. Frightening. So what are journalism classes teaching today to students? Is printing not the major thing? Of course printing is important, but then they are not only teaching printing. Printing is not the primary focus, but then what is the primary focus is more of digital media, coding, infographics, and all of this. This is what journalism classes are teaching today. This is a reality. Now moving forward, you also see that there are other set of industries who are currently being disrupted. For example, financial services, telcos, right? Healthcare, building management. Now if I take financial services as an example, now the way that we do a banking transaction has changed a lot from the last 10 years to what it is currently, right? Earlier we didn't have online banking, we didn't have ATMs, we didn't have mobile banking and all of this, but then we continue to do banking. If you see, if you go and drill down deep, banking hasn't changed. But then the process that is adopted to banking, to do banking has changed drastically. Yes? Like for example, an account number is still an account number 10 years back or now. But then, what all activities that I do with that account number, like for example, a fund transfer or a deposit or a cash withdrawal, all of this has changed. See, the processes that is associated with the banking has changed. Obviously, not only that is our experience today, but then what is happening to the banking industry today is that there are 2,000 plus fintech firms across the globe, which are creating a different kind of a user experience altogether for customers. Now, what is that? Now, you see that peer-to-peer lending, micro-lending, right? Cardless transactions. I spoke about a Chinese company which is talking about facial recognition for authentication. All of these are fintech firms which are going and touching every individual, giving a new user experience. Now, what is happening to the industry or the legacy players in this market? They are shelling out huge billions of dollars in the future of this business, and they want to thrive and survive in this business. Now, the third category would be the industries which are going to get disrupted. The first of many would be manufacturing. Now, manufacturing would not be only impacted through IT transformation, but then would also get impacted by some of the emerging technologies around it as well. Like for example, 3D printing. 3D printing will not only be for plastics, it will be for metals going forward. It will not only be for printing prototypes, but it will be for printing real-time working models. It's a reality. GE printed their first Boeing 777 engine and it's gone live, it's flying. Believe it or not. It's a reality which is happening in the manufacturing industry. Now, this is digital disruption. So I've categorized industries depending upon where you belong, what kind of action you would take today to circumvent that and be something that is relevant to your own industries and be competitive in the way that you do business. Now, Hewlett-Packard Enterprise endeavors in terms of accelerating this digital transformation for organizations, making it a reality for organizations today, right? So what we have done is this. Now, to help organizations in the age of disruption, you should have been disruptive, is it not? A disruptive company, HP, was formed way back in 1939 in a garage in Palo Alto, California, right, by these two gentlemen, Hewlett and Packard. Now, that happened to be the birthplace of Silicon Valley way back in 1939, right? That's what you see as Silicon Valley today, right? But then these gentlemen had innovation in their DNA. That is the DNA that this company carries forward. We have not stopped from there on. We have come out with disruptive technologies, starting from your oscilloscopes to the calculators to the first x86 servers to the Moonshot, which is like in a 4U, you have 180 servers, kind of a disruptive technology, or you're talking about a cloud management brokerage service like Helion, or today what we have announced using the first composable infrastructure based on Synergy platform. So we have never stopped innovating because we need to be disruptive in order to not get disrupted in the digital disruptive world. Now, for organizations like you, what would be the approach? How do you take this transformation forward? Now, transformation will not happen in like masses. It will not happen like overnight. It will not happen like one day I decide and tomorrow I get transformed. No. Right? It will happen in bits and pieces. It will happen in tens and hundreds and thousands across the globe in different places and different industries. But it will happen in three facets. The first of it, which is the fundamental of any change, comes from the IT transformation. Today, if you see, most of the data centers are built with legacy infrastructure which won't bend to meet any kind of real-time need. That is where we say that the larger enterprises would not probably adapt to a particular change. It cannot react to an on-demand change within any organization. So first of many would be to transform the IT to meet actually, or to enable that to be much more flexible to meet an on-demand change in real-time speed. The birthplace of this is technologies like your social, mobile, cloud, analytics, big data, all of this work together to make an IT within an organization much more agile and flexible to meet that. So that's the first fundamental change that organizations have to go. The second and the third, if you visualize this transformation, the second comes to sweet spot, which is business process operation automation. Now here, if you look at, if you decode this terminology, it's like this. Like I gave an example of the bank, which the banking as such didn't change, but the processes to do banking changed. This is more of the operational changes, right? Many of us are in an industry where you cannot change a business model. Your business model is like this. Ingram will do distribution, period, right? That is the prime business. But then if that is the prime business, the way to do businesses is changing. How do you automate that? How do you give that user experience back to that business? How do you ensure that many more customers actually be a part or a customer of that organization? Those kind of operational changes come in from the business operation transformation, right? Finally, we talk about the business model transformation. If you look at Uber, it was a completely new business model. It was not the same as the earlier taxi industry, is it not? It is something that is new. It used applications, it used maps and all of this. It didn't even own a single car. It's completely a new business model. This is coming out with a newer business model. So today you can have a great idea to have a greater customer experience, but then it's also imperative to understand whether you need to change the business model or you retain the business model and change the business operations underneath it, right? So these are the three facets of changes or transformation which will make a digital transformation proof or realistic for organizations today. So to make it much more simpler, not only talking 30,000 feet, making it a reality for customers, what HPE we came out with is 4 transformational areas. First, fundamentally changing the fundamental IT transformation, transforming to a hybrid IT infrastructure. Still protecting your digital enterprise, because when you're doing business operations transformation, wherein your business model doesn't change, but then when you change business operations here, you would have to involve your third-party organizations. You would involve third-party applications, their users, their customers, to bring in that user experience. So when you're doing that, your security might be compromised. So how do you ensure that your security is intact, compliant to your organization's policies? How do you empower a data-driven organization? How you have a great idea, but then how will you connect different data pieces within your organizations to make that idea a reality? How do you collect all your 100% of your data to make that possible? How will you decide whether to change a business model or to improve a business operation? How will you decide on that? What would be your next biggest IT transformation? How will you decide on that? So these kind of imperative decisions are taken by empowering a digital organization, which is much more data-driven. Now finally comes a lot of customer experience, wherein, like for example, an airliner today understands that a queue for check-in is increasing, right? Dynamically, they understand that so many people are in this queue, I will have to open 3 more counters to do a check-in. Now that's customer experience. But if that is brought, then more and more customers are going to go through that airliner. Now, how do I give that customer experience? More of it is on mobile-first kind of strategy, which is much more secure. You have much more people interaction happening in 360 degrees. So how do we make these technologies a reality for customers because it touches every piece of the digital transformation that we spoke about. And why is HP the best to do that? We spoke about this. So what are the inhibitors to transform to an IT infrastructure that is digitally transformed? If you see today, this is the biggest challenge. You don't have a lot of skill set within organizations, or you do not have a lot of confidence in hybrid IT within organizations. You see that there are also not a lot of budgets. There are cost constraints that are associated with transforming to an hybrid IT infrastructure. So what HP delivers here is the applications, tools, and people who are relevant to making that transformation a reality for organizations. We also have very, very innovative financial models which will bring down costs. We have very, very cost-effective cloud-like infrastructures which can run right out of the box, which can help you roll out a VM in 5 clicks maybe, right? You're having a cloud-like infrastructure running out of the data center, which is much more agile and meeting real instantaneous on-demand requests coming in from users. Now, because of that, if you see what we have achieved is phenomenal. You see that today's Fortune companies, 9 of 10 on the top, have chosen HP for hybrid IT transformation. It's because of the gamut of suite of products and application and people and expertise that we have that made them choose us for this IT transformation.